launch OpenSpace, click on the OpenSpace button, which will bring us to a list of profiles. There are two ways to launch OpenSpace: launch a profile directly or use the launcher. If you choose launcher, the launcher window will open. It may open behind another window, so you may have to navigate to it using Alt-Tab or other means. From this launcher window, I can edit and create profiles. I can also change my configuration. We will always use the spout output equirectangular when using it inside your dome. Click the submenu to return to your profile options. All the other buttons will automatically launch your profiles. So to launch the default profile, click the button and it should launch OpenSpace. If within 5 to 10 seconds you don't see OpenSpace loading, click the submenu and launch again. Once OpenSpace has opened up completely, you will see the user interface for OpenSpace is piped in to your user interface. Inside OpenSpace, when navigating, we use the left mouse button and drag to rotate, to stop, release. For zooming, we use the right mouse button and drag to stop, release. For panning, we use the left mouse button and hold the control button and we will pan our image. To rotate, we hold the shift key and the left mouse button and we can rotate our image. Up in the top right corner, we will see the words rotation, zoom, and roll. When they are green, that indicates that friction is active. So if I wanted to turn friction off, I could click on zoom and the word will appear red. Now if I begin to zoom out and release, we see that it continues to zoom. To stop, we can either hold the button or press zoom to re-engage friction. This can be done with rotation, zoom, and roll. Inside OpenSpace, down at the bottom, we have our scene tree. In our scene tree, our current focus is always going to be on top. This allows us to do drop-down menus and change layers to show different types of data, color layers, height layers, etc. When we change our focus, such as changing our focus to Mars, for example, we will see that instantly the scene current focus changes to Mars. At this point, we could go into things like color layers and we could turn on data sets like the CTX mosaic. And I click the mark and we can see the mosaic start to filter in. This is how you interact with the data sets that are available. If you wanted to turn something on before you got there, such as flying to the moon next, I could search for moon in the search field, hit the drop down menu, and interact with the moon's layers. To close the menu, I can click on the button or the X to close that menu. When determining what data sets you would like to use, please note that there are OpenSpace servers in Utah, New York, and Sweden. So if you see three identically named data sets, please choose the server that is located closest to you for the fastest load times. Next, we have settings. This will be discussed more in detail in the OpenSpace tutorials on their website, or if you need, schedule a session with your support representative. General operation will not require you to spend any time in the settings menu. The next menu is our focus menu. Inside our focus menu, we are able to navigate the universe. If I wanted to fly to the moon, for example, I could click on the airplane and it will fly me at a reasonable rate to the moon. While we're waiting for that to load, another thing to know is if I were to hold the shift button and click the airplane, it will immediately jump me to the moon. And I will show you a very good example of that here momentarily when I fly from the moon to Earth. So now if I wanted to go to Earth, if I hold the shift button and click the airplane, it will jump me straight to Earth. The little target button just changes your focus. So if I wanted to change my focus to the ISS, I would just click on it, not on the airplane. Now my focus is the International Space Station. If I clicked the airplane, we would begin to fly in to the current location of the International Space Station. Anytime you want to cancel a flight, you could hit cancel and it will stop you where you currently are. We could continue to zoom in manually and rotate and look around the International Space Station. The next section of our user interface is the date and time window. Here we can use the arrows to change the date and time, and we can also increase and decrease the rate of speed. We can change it to minutes per second, hours per second, days per second, months per second, and years per second. We can also change that value by using this little slider button. So once we chose minutes per second, for example, I could increase to 100 minutes per second by just dragging on this bar, and I can drop it back down to 3 minutes per second by dragging it down slower even more. Clicking real time will bring us into real time rate, and now will bring us to the exact moment in time. To close this menu, click on either the X or the menu's title down here on the navigation bar. This next session we see, or next section we see here rather, is for recording. If I wanted to record some of my movement to play at a later time, I could give it a name, my recording, and I could click record. Now I could fly from the International Space Station to Earth. And as that application is, or that movement is happening, you can see it goes just a little bit slow. Now I can hit cancel because I'm not going to wait for the whole thing and stop recording. And now if I look under playback files, I have that, my recording. I can click on it and hit play, and it's going to bring me back and do that exact same recording. I can always stop playback and pause it, of course, and I can close my menus by clicking on the button for that particular menu. This pin enables us to fly to a location on Earth by putting in custom coordinates like latitude, longitude, and altitude and clicking fly to. Next, we have screen space renderings. This allows you to add slides to your OpenSpace windows using URLs. Currently, we have no active slides. To add a slide, I could give a slide a name like logo, and I could paste in the URL of my logo, which I do not have at this time, and hit add slide. And it's going to put a slide up here, but because there is no actual logo at that location, it is not going to work. But I could pull in any image that lives out on the internet. To close that, I just click the button again or the X. Next, we have our exoplanet system. If I wanted to add an exoplanet because we started talking about it and it came up in discussion, I could search something like the 14 HER and I could click add to system. Now that I've done that, I could either come to the navigation menu and look for 14 HER, or I can navigate to it by clicking this focus button, and I could now be focused on it and fly to that system. Or in my navigation, I could click the airplane, and that will fly us to that star cluster 14 HER. And here we are. Now this exoplanet system has been loaded in, and we would be able to look at this. In addition, under our scene tree, it would show up, and we could take things or show different layers, like getting rid of atmosphere, things like that. To close those menus again, you use the X or click the button. Finally, we have our user control panels. This would allow us to uh, add user control panels. For example, if you had an HTML page that was built to control OpenSpace, you could add it this way, like ui.openspace.com and clicking add panel, and it's going to pull that panel up. Of course, I typed it in wrong, which is why it just gave me a blank web page. But if I had a panel, I could do it that way. Additionally, I could create my own HTML panels and save them in my OpenSpace folder, and they would show up under Select Panel. We have action boards that allows us to interact with OpenSpace using pre-developed buttons, such as for night sky astronomy. Perhaps I would go to night sky and I may say um, view, and I may say level horizon, and it's going to level the horizon. I could go back to night sky, and I could go to constellations, and I could look at art, and I could say show all, and it takes just a second for these to load in, but all of your uh, constellation art will load in. Um, it is just downloading from the internet. That is your action boards. I've also built one in here called Eclipse, which will demonstrate for you the eclipse from April 8th. So this is a great little piece for using inside. You can see just as I did that, the constellation artwork popped in. So I could come back now and go to constellations and art, and I could say disable all, and they shut off. That is how we use action boards. When you are finished inside OpenSpace, you can click the sub-menu button to return to the OpenSpace profile options, and that brings us back. Now let's talk about how to add your own um, profiles. So you can see I have user choice buttons here. I would navigate down to user choice, and if I come here, here is user choice 2. I could come to GUI text properties, and I am going to edit this one to be called SSE for Solar System Explorers. And when I click out, we'll see that that button instantly changed to SSE. So now if I look, I can see that this was user choice 2. So I can come all the way down until I find user choice 2, which I'm just going to expand these a little bit. So here's user choice 1, here's user choice 2. Now I could come into this chapter, so I know it's chapter 22. And in the EXE cell is where we have the OpenSpace executable launcher. And to edit the profile, I would come under File, Process Launch Options, and under Command Line Arguments, -B means bypass the launcher, and we say true. -P means load profile, and then the name of the profile. So my profile happens to be named SSE, so I would change default to SSE, and I would say File, Save, and I'm going to save as OpenSpace Profiles. And now if I were to click on SSE, it is going to launch OpenSpace using my Solar Systems Explorer's profile. When I'm finished, I can return by clicking Submenu. If I click Submenu again, it'll bring us back to our Astrophysics Applications menu.